Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Veeryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopa Karottam Pravaram Munina Patanjali Pranjalina Natosmi. Hari Om. We are in the second sadhana pada of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We are studying 8 limbs, Ashtanga of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We saw 4 niyama. We saw 4 yama. And we saw asana. There is a definite flow of slow evolution of consciousness in the process of Ashtanga Yoga. Unless the yama and the niyama are mastered to a good extent, asana cannot become siddha. If we observe Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we realize that the whole focus of Yoga Shastra is on slowing down. We must slow down. We are only attuned to the outer world and we know how speedy we are in this world. There is some kind of a rush that we have all the time. We do not think even for a second, even as a sadhaka and a student of yoga, what is the purpose of my birth? I'm running helter-skelter for the livelihood, but is this what I am born for? Is this the purpose of my life? Even the thought that now that I am born and I'm a responsible person or a family man, I have to earn the bread and the butter, the pure vyavaharik angle behind living, even that, does that require so much of chaos and commotion? Are we not constantly in some kind of chaos and commotion? We get deeply involved into the external things. Our job involves attention of our intelligence to do some functioning necessary for the organization. If we only restrict ourselves to that, our commotion in the mind and the body will be far less than what it is now. But if we observe ourselves, we realize that we are constantly into something. And this we have developed as a part of habit over a period of time, to the extent that we cannot sit without work. One of the greatest exercise that one should be doing for oneself is forget about all the pranayama, the asana, the yama, the niyama. Sit at one place and do nothing. It's more unfortunate that we try to attempt meditation. How a turbulent water can even think of attaining the stillness of a lake? A flowing turbulent water cannot expect itself to be serene and calm like a lake of water. It is extremely difficult to sit at one place and do nothing. Just ask yourself, or anyone, sit at one place and do nothing. And mind well, I'm not talking about the mind to be made still. Even the body doesn't remain still. The thoughts will galore. And after about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, if you're not sleeping, you will get up from your place and do something. We have to do something when we are awake. And that is the biggest problem. Sthira Sukha Asanam, as told by Patanjali Maharaj, is, first of all, sit at one place, asanam. Be at one place, physically and mentally, and then let that sitting be very comfortable, not pain producing. You should not be ill at ease, but you should be at ease. Sukha asanam. Now, the body is not used to a particular posture or has already adopted a different posture over a period of time, because of which sitting at one place creates lack of comfort in the body. If you sit in Siddhasana, forget about the Padmasana or the Vajrasana, more than 5 minutes, the body starts aching. The tendons, the muscles, the bones, the body cries because she's not used to it. We being the couch potatoes, always sliding where we are sitting, never sitting with erect spine, but always bending forward, adopting faulty postures, and the top of it, coupled with a heavy body which has never exercised itself, with a huge tummy, a gluttonous person, and again a time where he's used to always eating something, so the stomach always carries some amount of load for the digestion. Such a person Cannot even sit at one place. We have to talk about sthira sukha asanam. So the sthirata, the stability of the asana depends on how supple the body is, how fit the body is, how energetic the body is. So below the neck, the physique has to be in good order. You need not be a muscle man. Mind well, most of the muscle men cannot sit at one place. Lifting heavy weights is a different thing. And sitting in sthira sukhasanam is a completely different thing. A yogi has an endurance in the body developed through breathing exercises and asanas, the hatha yoga asanas, because of which the joints, the ligaments. That's why the yoga focuses more on joints, ligaments, and tendons than the muscles. A yogi has to be very lanky, lightweight, eating very little, and having very flexible body. That is the reason flexibility is the central point for yogic exercises. No other exercise in the world, may it be running, swimming, walking, jogging, or gym going, focuses on flexibility of the body. No exercises talks about the paraspinal muscles. No exercises talk about the bending of the knee for a very long time, sitting with the flexion at the hip for a very long time, the shoulders steady at that place because of holding of the ligaments and the joint. So that is why sthira sukha asanam, as we saw last time, is not a very easy thing to achieve. It is done by practice, abhyas. Yoga is all abhyas, abhyas, and abhyas. But the fact is, even though I'm trying to sit in a sthira sukhasanam, what is important is I sit in sthira sukhasanam for a definite purpose. An archer, when he shoots his arrow, if you've seen it in Olympics also, the shooting of an arrow is a final event. But prior to that, they concentrate, they take their posture, take the bow in the hand, put it at the right place. They ensure that the shoulder is in right position. They ensure that the eyes are rightly set on the target. These are all preparation for shooting the arrow. Similarly, asana is a preparatory phase, but an essential phase for the next targeting the arrow, and that is pranayama. No pranayama is possible if the asana is not siddha. There is a travesty of pranayama in the today's world. Anyone gets up and starts doing pranayama. Majority of the stupid ideas about the pranayama is it is regulation of breathing. Prana is not breath. First thing to be removed from the head is prana is not breath. Breathing is the most demonstrable, visible effect of prana, although a huge amount of effect of prana is not perceived by the demonstration. A boiling water may send some bubbles to the top, but the bubble is not the heat of the water. Bubble rising from the bottom to the surface of a boiling water is a demonstrable effect of the boiling that is going on. Similarly, breathing is a demonstrable and visible effect of prana. But that is a very, very minor effect. The major effect of pranas is not known to us, although it is the pranas that are helping us to do everything, including right now, the way I'm talking. No activity is possible. Even the thinking is not possible if it is not aided and abetted by prana. Very rightfully we say, when somebody dies, we say pranotramana, the pranas have gone away. As long as the prana is there, the entity is alive. In fact, the birth is nothing else but entrance of prana and beginning of activity in the body. The pranas have their places, and the pranas operate in a particular fashion, and the pranas completely cover the body. The whole purpose of pranayama is to regulate this prana, and if possible, stop the wastage of prana. Every activity, including thought, is wastage of prana. So prana and its regulation, ayam of prana, is to bring back the pranas from the dissipating channels and put them inside in the body so that they can be directed at the will of the yogi. But to do this, it requires practice, and it requires sitting for a long period, prolonged period. Now, sitting for a prolonged period, if it gets disturbed, the practice of pranayama gets disturbed. Pranayama is the stepping stone for ekagrata. The dharana and the dhyana is not possible unless pranayama is put in its own place. Pranayama is not possible if there is no sthira sukha asanam. Please let us take the idea out of the head that sthira sukha asanam means sitting at one place. Mind well, we are contemplating to sit at one place for few hours. Even the Hatha Yoga books, scriptures tell us that minimum 4.5 hours. In some books, or Master Krishnananda mentions that minimum 3 hours. We have a problem with few minutes, and the beginners are told to be sitting at one place for at least 4 hours. How can you sit for 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, unless the physical body, the practice has gone to a sufficient extent? And remember, it's not sitting with any movement. You're not scratching your body. You're not soothing your joints. You're not moving your body front and back. You're not trying to relieve yourself of the stress point by movement. In fact, you should not even get disturbed by the internal stimuli. The internal stimuli are the thirst, the hunger, the itch on the body, the pain at the joint. Nothing should disturb you. And that is possible when, obviously, the body, the structure has to be in spick and span condition. Once you have this in spick and span condition, then you need to practice, starting with few minutes, slowly increasing it to half an hour, to 1 hour, to 1.5 hours. Then the asana gets established. That is why Patanjali Maharaj is not interested in talking about the rest of the 84 asanas. That is a part of Hatha Yoga. That is a preparatory exercise. He says, take any asana that you want, but it has to be a sitting asana. You can't do pranayama while walking. You can't do sthira sukhasanam in standing position. The exceptionally high yogis can do sthira sukhasanam in standing position also, but they are people of a very high order. Majority, you will find, including Adi Yogi Shiva, sitting in a Siddhasana and focusing himself on the ultimate, the Ananta. That is why Sthira Sukhasanam is a preparative phase of the yogi who has mastered Yama and Niyama to a certain extent, now trying to use his body. And look what has happened. By the time one is contemplating to sit in an asana, he has already practiced Yama and Niyama, because of which he is least bothered about the outer world. Nothing disturbs him from the outer world because he has already inculcated in him these yamas. He has ahimsa developed in him, so he's not thinking ill about anybody. Now the thoughts about harming anyone, comparing with anyone, thinking about how deprived I am compared to others, these thoughts do not come to the yogi's mind. Because he is speaking truth and satya, his mind is not biting him anymore. There are no residues left of repentance in the mind. Because he is not interested into anything asteya, there is no desire pulling him outside. And because he is not having bhog of any vastu, his mind is undisturbed. He's thinking about the cleanliness and he's clean himself inside and outside. He has santosha, he is contented. And he has extreme reverence to the God, knowing fully well that whatever is happening is at his wish and all the things are ultimately dedicated to Ishvara. Now he's sitting in asana. So all the external world can be dissolved only when you have extricated yourself from the external world. And this process of extrication is nothing else but mastering the Yama and the Niyama. A person who is deeply involved in money, who is constantly thinking of his shares going up and down, is not a person fit for sitting in even Sukhasana. He cannot. Give up everything around you. Keep everything at a particular distance. Disconnect inside from inside with all the things that you see outside. Forget the office. Forget the relations. Forget the family. You are with yourself. And you are a very healthy, supple, flexible gentleman, a yogi, a yati. Then you start sitting in sthira sukhasanam and try to extend the period of sukhasanam as much as you can. Initially, there will be efforts, but slowly the efforts will start dwindling down. And that is exactly what Patanjali Maharaj says in the 49th Sutra. Prayatna Shaithilya Ananta Samapatibhyam. He emphasizes Prayatna Shaithilya. Prayatna Shaithilya means not giving up the efforts, but relaxation of efforts. Initially, when you sit in Siddhasana, you have to constantly remember that I should not move. Nothing should disturb me, externally or internally. But later on, you slowly get used to it. Remember, when the mother feeds the newborn baby, initially she struggles to see that properly the baby is fed. But afterwards, the baby and the mother both get used to it, and it becomes a sahaja procedure, easy procedure. No efforts are required. Similarly, sitting in asana initially is an effort, but slowly it should get into sahajavastha. As you fold your knees, sit in siddhasana or padmasana, you should sink into the asana easily. What is the yardstick that there is no prayatna shaithilya? There is no effort done. There is complete prayatna shaithilya. How do we come to know? When you are not aware that you are sitting, that means it has entered into a phase of ease, completion. This is precisely what Swami Vivekananda says, that sthira sukhasanam means having absence of feeling of body. How often we remember our organs? When we are working, we don't remember our body because we are working on accounts. That time, we do have 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 nose, but we don't remember them. We remember our nose only when it itches. So if this is with 1 organ, same thing happens to the entire body. Because you're sitting in Sthira Sukhasanam and there is no connect to the outside world, the body, which is in perfectly fit condition, does not make herself available to you to notice. That is prayatna shaithilyam. And the second part is ananta samapatibhyam. What is ananta samapati? From this point onwards, the all commentators of Patanjali Yoga Sutras seem to go in different ways. If you try to read about the Theosophical Society, Mr. Temni's interpretation of the sutras, if you try to take Kaivalya Dham Lonavala and their interpretation, if you try to take Swami Vivekananda and his interpretation, if you take Vyasa and Vyasa Bhashya and that interpretation, if you take Vijnana Bhakshu and that interpretation, if you take Master Krishnananda and his interpretation, if you take Shivananda and his interpretations, we find the interpretations going in different ways. It is pretty confusing. And as we go towards pranayama, we will find that people, the masters, have given altogether different interpretation. And that is where the question comes, whom to believe and what to believe. That's why the answer is synthesis. Taking the best ideas on the commentaries given by different great stalwarts and assimilating it together. Just to give you an example, there is a word called udghat. Udghat. We have udghatan. We know inauguration. But the original word is udghatya or udghat. Udghat. Udghat is what happens when you breathe properly and reach properly into a kumbhaka. So every alternating respiration leading into kumbhaka, we are going to see all the details about pranayama, what is kumbhaka, etc. But every time that happens, there is an upthirst, there is a jolt that you receive. It's called udghat. Now, most of the commentators have written about udghat in a different way. But it is Vivekananda who says udghat is nothing else but a jolt given to the kundalini. Now, this is not given by anyone else, but we cannot forget that Vivekananda would write it from the experience. So we have to assimilate the different commentators, and that is how, right from onwards, from Sthira Sukhasanam onwards, we are trying to take the synthesized view of majority of the commentators dropping away one odd deviant interpretation, even though it is from the great stalwart. So, Ananta Samapatti, one of the interpretation given by one of the commentator is like a gyroscope. If you have seen the gyroscope, it is a instrument in which the circular structure is there, and the ball there moves right, left, forward, backward, circular, and ultimately steadies. So that is called a gyroscope. It has a stand and it has a circular top on which the ball steadies itself. Now the commentator has gone to the extent of comparing that with the Ananta. Ananta means he has interpreted it as the Sarpa, which is supposed to take the earth as a round on the head. The Sheshanaga is holding the earth on the head, and the way he is balancing it, that is the way asana is balanced by the yogi. Now, this is a far-fetched demonstration or interpretation by one of the commentator. While others have commented it this way, Ananta means the vastness. So when you concentrate on the vastness and having Prayatna Shaithilya in Sthira Sukhasanam, then the asana gets established. This is one interpretation. What is Ananta? Vivekananda has interpreted Ananta as sky, focusing on sky. I'm just trying to tell how different interpretations are there. But the gist of the interpretation is, while sitting in Sthira Sukhasana, almost becoming effortless, and this effortlessness is possible when we focus on Ananta, or the vastness. No specific thing in front of your mind. So this is purely a nirguna aradhana. It is a sakara, but nirguna. So nirguna sakara aradhana. The vastness is a guna. So you focus on akasha and sit in one place with this sthira asana and keep on sitting in that place. Mind well, you're focusing on the akasha. That means you're focusing on the vastness. As you do this, you will observe that the mind descends down. Right now, when I'm trying to do that, suddenly the mind comes and finds out whether I'm speaking properly or not. Again, it goes up there in the sky. Few microseconds of concentrations are achieved. The vastness of the sky is imaginary perception of the mind of the vastness. Nothing else is coming in the mind. Complete absence of surroundings. Nothing is remembered of the past. There is no anxiety of the future. I'm in the present and in only one thing. That is the vastness of the sky. Focusing on it. Completely focused on it. Almost forgetting the body. The asana that I'm contemplating. This to be continued for a longer period, as much period as possible, but not just sitting at one place, but sitting with ease of effort, prayatna shaithilya, and also doing ananti samapatibhyam, focusing and concentrating on ananta, or the vastness or the sky. The question here is, do we do both simultaneously or we do not? And if prayatna shaithilyam is what we are going to achieve, then which should be done first? Both are simultaneous thing. As we keep on focusing on Ananta, the sky or the vastness, or the Shunya as we call it, or the void, more the focus, less is the remembrance of the body. Beyond body, you're not remembering anything at all. That's gone long back. No family, no daily life, no this world, no objects, nothing. That's already gone. Now there's only one issue, that's of your body and mind. The mind is focusing on Ananta. So mind doesn't have anything else, no past, no future, no worries, no anxiety, no fear. The body has nothing because it's sitting at one place. So no sensations are coming from any part of the body asking the brain to focus on a particular part. I'm not scratching. So no signal coming from the body. The sensory cortex, the motor cortex is perfectly at ease. Mind well, it is observed scientifically in medical knowledge that when you sit and relax, even then the nerves are firing in the relaxed muscle. But as you further keep on relaxing, the number of nerve firings go down. As they go down, you relax. Usually the time taken for bringing the nerve stimuli or the firing of the nerves to almost zero requires about 5 minutes. If you all remember in Hatha Yoga, one of the most looking easy but most difficult asana is Shavasana, corpse position. You do nothing. You just lie down and do nothing. Forget your body. Breathe slowly. And when you do that, the nerves slowly stop firing. Every individual muscle fiber is without any stimulus, and your body becomes absolutely flaccid. That is the kind of relaxation you should have in asana and with ease. So prayatna shaithilyam. What is going to happen in this? One more important aspect we must remember. In our body, we do a lot of activities. I'm speaking. It's an activity requiring a lot of energy. The pranas are being used in speaking. Muscles, when they work, they require energy. When we walk, when we talk, when we drive, when we sit, when we think, mind well, even the brain consumes 22% of oxygen of the entire body, even though it is hardly a small organ. So every thought also consumes prana. Now this in modern medical language is called the language of anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is you create larger and larger molecules from smaller molecules, such as after you eat your food, the food is converted into glucose, and this formation of glucose is an anabolic activity which is stored in your liver. And when you start doing some exercise, now you require energy, so those larger molecules are broken down into smaller molecules. Technically, the previous one is called as neoglucogenesis, and the breaking down is called glycolysis. Formation of glucose and breaking down of glucose and creation of energy. The energy is in the form of adenosine triphosphate, which is used by us for performing different functions. Now, when these functions are on, it is all interplay of pranas. The digestion, the thinking, the walking, the wincing, the talking, the hearing, use of indriyas, everything requires prana. That is how the pranas are constantly expended. Now what we are doing is, we are going to go into pranayama. So the thing is that ayama means regulation, and prana, vitality. You're going to regulate the vitality, regulation of prana you're going to do. But first of all, you should have prana at one place to regulate. If you keep spending pranas, how are you going to regulate? That is why you sit in one place and stop the dissipation of pranas through different activities. So activities are brought to zero. You're not walking, you're not talking, you're not scratching, you're not moving. With the result, the catabolism comes to a standstill, anabolism comes to a standstill. That means both together are called metabolism. The metabolism is regulated in the body with the help of hormones. The insulin, the glucagon, they help you in anabolism, while the adrenaline and the other hormones, they help you in catabolism. Now imagine when you are under tremendous pressure, stress, fear, it is the adrenaline that is released in a higher quantity, and that is what causes you fear and trembling and whatnot. So just imagine the effect of hormones on the body. Now that you are sitting in Sthira Sukhasanam, the metabolism is reduced to a very low level. When the metabolism is reduced to low level, there is no need for the body to have the energy or the glucose or the adenosine triphosphate that you needed when you were active outside. So naturally, the body goes into hibernation as far as food is concerned. And that is one of the reasons why when we sit in Sthira Sukhasanam, the yogi does not feel hunger, thirst. Water is not much required. Oxygen is not much required. Food is not much required because the energy is not much required. Reduce the amount of energy by sitting still. Physical movements will conserve 70% of the energy. But sitting still, if the mind is thinking, you will need 30% of the energy. In psychological disorders, especially depression, people tend to eat more. This is called binge eating. And they tend to eat more because thinking consumes energy. The mind that is continuously at breakneck speed in thinking is a completely unfit mind for the yoga. So sitting at one place reduces metabolism. It reduces metabolism, and that can be proved by modern medicine. When in Harvard, the experiments were conducted on the Tibetan lamas, they found that the respiratory rate of a yogi sitting in a calm Sthira Sukhasana goes down from 12 to 2, and a great yogi of Vivekananda's stature, it is to go to 0. It may be startling to know how you can survive when the respiration has stopped. But it is equally startling to know that majority of the highly advanced yogis are in Kumbhaka. Kumbhaka means there is no inhalation, there is no exhalation, because there is no metabolism in the body. All the Puranic lores where so-and-so Rishi was sitting in meditation for 1,000 years appears to be an arthavada to us. But mind well, in perfectly equanimous body and mind, deeply absorbed, where there is no vritti in the mind, the breathing goes down. Even in the modern exercise physiology, More fit you become, your pulse rate drops down, your respiration comes down, your blood pressure comes down, because all those are responses for the increased activity. Now that you have deliberately decreased it, through this, your breathing rate goes down to 2 or 3. In a minute, barely you see the chest of a yogi moving in and out. The heart rate drops almost to 0. Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to have many occasions where his pulse was 0. Majority of even Hatha yogis can stop their heart at will. And these are not exaggerations. There have been experiments, even modern medical experiments on this. Then Prayatna Shaitilyam is gradual snackling in efforts. Because the body, from the conscious mind, the body gets transferred to subconscious mind. When subconscious mind comes into the play, the conscious mind cannot recognize the consciousness of the body. So Sthira Sukhasanam is to be achieved and accomplished through Prayatna Shaithilyam and Ananta Samapatibhyam. Anante Samapannam Tittam Asanam Nivartayati. Ananta is either Shunya or Akash. And what happens to such an yogi which is in Sthira Sukhasana? Such a yogi has then no remembrance of any dvandva. What is dvandva? Shita Ushna. If there is a fire outside, temperature is up, temperature is very cold. It doesn't bother him because he has lost his contact with the body. And that is why most of the lamas are doing dhyana in the Himalayas, as a result of which many of the lamas, when they sit for meditation and the meditation continues for few hours to few days, at that point of time, the snow starts falling. It is seen that many lamas do not have snow around them because it melts. So all around it is all white, filled with snow, except around the body of a lama. Looking at it and being surprised, a group of medical scientists, medical professors, literally lifted one lama from Tibet, took him to Harvard, and an experiment was conducted on him. Because the snow could not be recreated, a lama went in meditation and he was laden with blankets soaked in frozen water. He continued with his slow breathing in asana, and in a period of about 12 to 13 minutes, the blankets completely dried. What it means is the lama or the yogi is unaware of dvandvas because he goes beyond the body. So he has no hunger, he has no thirst. In meditation, when you sit, you don't feel thirsty, you don't feel hungry because the metabolism is almost at standstill. The digestive system is sleeping. Most of the systems, the liver is sleeping, the pancreas are not working, the lungs are working at a very minimal rate. The brain has slowed down. The neuronal firings have calmed down. The muscles are completely relaxed. This is when one is fit to work on the pranas. And that is where the pranayama comes into the picture through 49th Sutra. Tasmin sati shwasa prashwasayoho gati vicheda pranayamaha. Patanjali gave only one sutra on pranayama. Next 4 sutras are on pranayama alone. But these 4 sutras, each of one line, has created so much of divergence of opinion amongst the intellectuals and the stalwarts that to study these 4 sutras and study pranayamas is not an easy thing. Tasmin sati is the first word. Tasmin sati means after what? After the asana jaya. That means after the sthira sukhasanam. So this first word itself is very important. Pranayama cannot be achieved if sthira sukhasanam is not achieved. Tasmin sati shwasa prashwasa yoho. Patanjali Maharaj used 2 words, shwasa, prashwasa. Now this itself is controversy. This itself is having divergence of opinion. What is a shwasa? Is a shwasa nishwasa? And if it's shwasa is nishwasa, then what is prashwasa? Is prashwasa uchavasa? The confusion begins. Again, as I told, we will try to take the synthesized opinion with credible evidence of the commentator, giving more credence to the commentators who are yogis par excellence, such as Swami Vivekananda. So, after the asana jaya, gati vicheda. Now, gati vicheda, gati is a speed, vicheda is to disturb the speed. Vichedana is dissection. So, dissecting the speed means reducing the speed, altering the speed, stopping the speed. There are 3 interpretations of gati vicheda. Either you stop the speed, cessation, complete stoppage. 2, you disturb the speed. 3, you alter the speed. Let us take example. I'm breathing in and out. Now, if I start breathing faster, what is happening? The gati is altered. But suppose I'm breathing and I stop breathing, the gati is stopped. And suppose if I breathe this way, deep, and then speedily, what is happening is I am disturbing the speed. Which one Patanjali Maharaj is pointing at? Gati vicheda of shwasa and prashwasa. So what is shwasa? To be established first. What is prashwasa? To be established later. What is gati vicheda? To be established later. Then we'll be understanding pranayama. And who is coming to our help? Swami Vivekananda, Vyas Maharshi, Vijnana Bhikshu, and Master Krishnananda. All of these people have given masterly commentaries. So let us see what precisely the pranayama is. After the asana siddhi, bahya vayu grahanam, the air that is outside being taken in is shwasa. It is also called nishwasa. Shwasa is called nishwasa, nischayena. To take the vayu inside, bahya vayu grahana. Udarastha vayu nissarana is prashwas or uchavas. Inhalation, exhalation. Inspiration, expiration. Shwasa, prashwasa. Nishwasa, uchavasa. Taking in, taking out. So this is the first part of Shwasa Prashwasa Yoho. Now one commentator has said that Patanjali Maharaj has not said anything about Puraka, Rechak and Kumbhaka because these words are not there in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Puraka Rechak Kumbhak is interpretation of Shwasa Prashwasa done by Hatha Yogis. Now that Shwasa Nishwasa and Prashwasa Uchchavasa, inhalation, exhalation is what we have seen, then interruption or stoppage of that inspiration or expiration. Now the question comes, this Gati Vicheda or interruption of the respiration is to be done while breathing in or while breathing out or both? Another question. And if this is pranayama, then when I do kumbhaka, that means when there is no inspiration, no respiration, everything is at standstill, then where is Gati Vicheda? Because there is no Gati. That means kumbhaka is not pranayama. Again, confusion. I'm just trying to put certain questions in the mind. This is all done with an exercise of not confusing, but these questions need to be answered properly so that we get the correct meaning of pranayama. Pranayama is the most misunderstood word. We understand pranayama in the most stupid manner, the way we understand asanam in the most stupid manner. Regulation of breathing is pranayama, is the most stupid definition of pranayama. Because breathing alone, if it is to be regulated, then everything should have been focused on that. This is an act done for the subsequent effect on something. You move your hands sideways when you are swimming, but moving sideways hands is not swimming. Moving of sideways of hands is one of the visible effect while swimming. Fair enough, it has its own role. But swimming per se is not moving only the hands either side. The swimming is an entirety, a complete thing, part of which is moving the hands away. Similarly, breathing is a part of the pranayama, which is visible to us. The effect inside happening at the other places is far more important. And that is why we begin with respiration, but this is just a springboard to dive deep into the vitality or the vital aspect or the vital sheath of the body called pranamaya kosha. The first thing that we need to know is pranayama should be, and again I reiterate, it should be done only under the guidance of a guru. Because even though everyone is doing pranayama these days and nothing is happening, both ways, neither the good effects are coming nor the bad effects are coming. But if pranayama is done in the right way and not done under the guru's guidance, pranayama can lead to madness or death. Swami Vivekananda did this inadvertently, that he tried to use, while in the position of pranayama, when the prana is concentrated in his body, he could feel the electric current kind of a situation in the body. So as a matter of not exactly a joke, but as a matter of a lighter vein, he asked Abhedananda Maharaj, who was sitting right beside him in dhyana, asked him that you please touch my body. Abhedananda Maharaj touched his hand to Swami Vivekananda's body and went into trance. When Ramakrishna Paramahamsa came to know about it, he went upstairs, put his hand on the head of Abhedananda and scolded Vivekananda, saying that you do not know what you were doing. Today, perhaps he could have lost his life. Pranas are to be tackled in a very, very careful manner. So only an adept guru has to be present for the real pranayama. The pranayama that we are doing is not real, so it doesn't give good effect also and bad effect also. But a good pranayama has to be done under the guidance of a guru. So this is one of the preliminary cautions that are given by most of the commentators. Now comes the situation. What is prana? How it is related to breathing? How pranayama is done? What is gati vicheda? In relation to this, what is puraka? What is rechaka? What is kumbhaka? Why breathing is a burden on the body? How breathing is abnormal to the body? Why the yogi tries to finish this abnormal breathing by stopping the breathing and then achieve what he intends to achieve? What is the difference between Hatha Yogic Pranayama and Raja Yogic or the Patanjali Maharaj Pranayama? All these are the subjects of discussion for the coming session, which we shall see in detail so that no confusion is left with the help of these great rishis and stalwarts and their commentaries. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnam Nidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. We'll wait for some questions.
Hari Om. Sanjay Rajendran here. Initially, at the opening, you said slowing down. Slowing down goes to further slow, then reaches to stillness, isn't it? The stillness is the extreme end of or this what do you call prana. There in the extreme end there will not be prana. There will be a total absence of prana. Is it that what the rishi intends with this? Then then my question is, in that case, we need to do some daily karmas. No, it is against the principle of karma. So how we are going about it.
This is why when you are sitting in Sthira Sukhasanam, you are not doing karma at all. The reason being, doing karma is the need of you when you are into Vyavaharika Vishwa. When you are sitting in meditation, you are absolving yourself from the karma. So those who cannot leave karma, for example, I cannot sit for meditation because I had a night duty. That means you cannot be a candidate fit for Sthira Sukhasanam and Pranayama and other things. This is meant for those who have separated the karma or fulfilled the karmas for the day, for the morning, for the evening. So it is going to start from allocating some time of your day or night for this exercise. But truly speaking, to continue this in perpetuity, a birth will come when you will have no karmas much left to you. You will directly descend into sannyasa. You will not enter into grahastha-ashrama. How do you think of the yogis or the rishis or the monks that are there? Why in Chinmaya mission or some mission and suddenly become brahmachari and devote completely to this particular faculty of adhyatma? Because you had a desire to do meditation. You had no desire in the world. Your vairagyam slowly has developed. The karmas will automatically start going down because that karma is a result of the desire. Now that desires, as they start waning, naturally the karmas wane, and the only desires that are left is to do upasana. So you will naturally be getting phalam of that desire as upasana. So when your desires are going down, the rajas is going down, the tamas is going down, naturally the sattva will propel you towards a situation where you will not engage in more karmas. Our problem is we have already come into the karmas now. So what do? You're already in the dirt. What do? You try to separate the dirt little bit away from your body. That is what we can do. And that little bit time then you can utilize for practicing this one. But by doing this, slowly and slowly, nobody knows how many births, but you will move towards a situation where Tapovan Maharaj, how is it that he became almost karma yogi, although karma yogi never doing any karma? He got born in Kerala, did his whatever lawyer, she this, that, etc., looked after his brother, and one fine day he left. Now what? Eating by begging alms, water from Ganga, rest of the time, only contemplation. It is a progress from point 1 to point 2, then from point 2 to over a period of time. Ananta Janma. We don't know whether 2, 4, 400, 4,000, 4 million. But the progress, and more you do this, the progress happens. Right now, spare yourself from the work that you are doing. Try to focus some time at least on this, so that the desire of the sattvic vichar will inculcate, that will make its own way further, and this then becomes slowly faster process as you move towards higher and higher levels through successive births. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. That's very clear. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Dr. Sanjay ji. Regarding Sthira Sukha Asana, like in Gita Mata, it is been said like where to sit. But I think those aspects, it is not mentioned here in Patanjali Yoga Sutra.
It is actually adhyavruta. It is understood. For example, unless you are a very adept and expert yogi, you cannot be doing meditation in a crowded street. So person who is attempting it for the first time or the early beginners phase, he should be at a place where there is solitude, not much of disturbance. Older days, these sadhus used to sit in jungle. In jungle, the crawling insects are generally likely to come. So Vyagrajina, the skin of tiger, was a deterrent for the crawling insects not to come close to the body. And that is why, and more so, because majority of the body they used to forget while meditating. Now imagine a snake is coming and biting you and you are not aware of it. What will happen? The poison will go inside. It will change the internal milieu and disturb you in your sadhana. So they used to take this particular thing. Many a times the hand used to be require a lot of resting. That is why you must have seen there is a staff, the wooden thing on which the hand was rested, because that was an easier way to rest the hand if you are not in Siddhasana. And another thing is, if you are able to prepare, there is a preparation for, if you look at Shivananda Maharaj's commentary on meditation, there are a lot of preparation he has given. You should have your own room, preferably not accessible for others. In your room, if a tamasi person comes, it pollutes the environment, meditation cannot be done properly. Only sattvika vichara should be there in the mind of the person who enters that room. Why do you think Deva Ghar, the place where gods are worshipped, is a pious place? Pious because only people with pious mind should come there. So meditation room preferably should be separate. It should be your own place. Your asana should not be used by anybody else, because again, we don't know how much tamasi or rajasic he is. Then the diet also is very important. Then the timing of the meditation is Brahma Muhurta is very important. The food should not be too much in the body. That is also important. You should not be suffering from any osteopathic disorders, etc., because constantly the pain will drag you away from the concentration. So these are all preparations which are understood. Patanjali Maharaj is writing this Yoga Sutra for already an adept yogi. That is why Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, he's talking about whom? Atha, the one who has already reached a certain stage. So he's a yogi, his body is supple, his physique is good. So that means first thing is we have to make our physique fit and proper. In any case, The one who is constantly having overweight, obesity, lethargy, he is not a person fit at all, even for uttering the word yoga. So one has to be very careful. If we cannot control our diet, if we cannot have a discipline of exercise, what can you do in your life? You can never be into the path of yoga. One has to be highly disciplined. One has to have an absolute control on what he is doing. The diet has to be same at the same time, same quantity. Why the diet should change? A change of diet, lalitya, is basically the tongue is carrying your mind everywhere. Such kind of person cannot be fit for sthira sukha asana. So the preparation starts from many things. Not only that, the condiments, the ginger, the garlic, these are all things which produce the asafoetida or the hing, it is called. These are all stimulating things. We don't want nerves to be stimulated at all. We are trying to calm down the nerves. So all the preparatory exercises are expected to be done before studying this sutra. Hari
Hariam, one more thing about the Naneshwar Maharaj. In Naneshwar, he is mentioning about like Vajrasana. I think that itself is very tough. And Naneshwar Maharaj is mentioning about like bandhas.
Yes.
3 bandhas. If anything more, if you can explain on that.
We are coming to the bandhas. We go move forward. The 3 main bandhas, 3 bandhas as they call, how and why they are important, what exactly gati ruddhata they do to the breathing, how they help. And then this Vajrasana that we called, the Vajrasana, even when the teacher is teaching the asanas, we can't do it for 2 or 3 minutes. Imagine sitting in Vajrasana, because Vajrasana is siddha only when you are able to sit in Vajrasana for 4 hours. Now, sitting in Vajrasana and still not having any compromise with the blood supply. That is what exactly the practice is all about. Because when the blood supply will be compromised, the body part will make you aware. There will be numbness and your meditation or your dhanam will get distracted there. So that is why it is a matter of practice. Bandhas we will see in detail. Hari.
Hari.
Hari. Anyone has any questions?
Otherwise, I have a question. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. On the Nyasa Yoga, because Adi Shankaracharya in Bhavani Ashtakam describes Nyasa Yoga. It's a Najanami, Dhanam Najanami Nyasa Yoga. So we'll be covering Nyasa Yoga in this Patanjali Yoga Shastra sometimes.
When we will be
or
studying,
if we are not covering, what exactly is Nyasa Yoga?
Yoga or we'll covering Nyasa means essentially because when we are going to study prana, we are going to see how the prana moves in the body. What are the channels of pranas moving in the body? What is the relationship between nadi and prana? So when we see that, that is the time when we are going to study Nyasa, because Nyasa is channels of prana. And this is what is yogi sees in his consciousness in that particular stage, that he is actually able to see the currents of pranas in the body, and he is master of controlling the currents of prana. So he knows that particular prana current going at a particular place and then leading to a nyasa. So that is a stage which is achieved after the yogi has deeply established himself in pranayama. We are going to see nyasa also. Are you?
Okay. Thank you.
Sanjay ji, if anyone doesn't have a question, I have just one thought coming to my mind. With that, we can close. What for a Adhama Adhikari, or even not even can be called as Adhama Adhikari itself, such a person, how to, because basically the question goes back to the fundamental question, which one has to follow? So everyone, I mean, like the bhaktas, they don't like this yoga path at all, or the karma yogis don't like the. So everyone, I mean, has to follow based on their temperaments and all. This is that is why we have many paths and all that. So then the fundamental question comes to why a person who can't sit like in Sthira Sukhasana and all that should study Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So this type of question comes to mind.
Very right. But let me also tell you one thing. The water starts flowing from the origin of a river in a singular manner. And as it comes down, then it branches it to different things and ultimately reaches the sea. In the similar manner, all the different types of margas are starting in a single flow and then getting distributed in different ways and ultimately mingling at the same sea called Brahma Darshana. Now, when we study all this, whether it is Patanjali Yoga Sutra or Bhakti Yoga, the first thing that we observe is none of the margas we have studied deep enough to understand them. This is first thing. Second is, my temperament is like this, is our own inadequate conclusion, because to know the swabhava is not so easy. Many a times, anything that is very, very painful, we try to avoid. For example, every Jnana Margi or even Bhakti Margi has to study Upanishads. But moment it comes to Rama Katha, you will find 10,000 people listening to it. Moment you say Chandogya Upanishada, the number goes down to 10. Now, is it because of temperament? It is not temperament. It is because of the attitudes inculcated, habits, vasanas inculcated over a period of time. Whether you follow Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, whatever you follow, you will have to do some fundamental basic exercise in the similar manner. So study of Patanjali Yoga Sutra tells us what? It tells us one thing. We are not talking about becoming an adept yogi like Patanjali Maharaj, but it at least emphasizes on one very important aspect. What are the aspects? I should be disciplined, and discipline is common to all the margas. Even Bhakti Marga requires enormous amount of discipline. Our interpretation of Bhakti is, it is very easy. Bhakti is one of the most difficult thing to achieve. So much so that the Jnanis are also told that you qualify first for the Bhakti. So the real deep meaning of what Bhakti is not what we have understood. Our interpretation of Bhakti is very simple. I'm doing puja. In fact, that puja is not to the level of Bhakti Shastra. So what happens is, by studying Patanjali, getting deep into this prana, ayam, etc., sthira sukhasana, at least we draw inferences like this. One, I should not be doing a lot of things in my life which are not essential for my spiritual progress. Vairagyam. Now, Vairagyam is already in Jnana Marga. Vairagyam is in Bhakti Marga. And that Vairagyam also we saw in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Second, I should slow down. Slow down means I should not be unnecessarily anxious. That exactly is nothing else but Karma Yoga. Everything comes back to the same square. The way of interpretation, the way of narration is different. Discipline is inculcated by Yoga Shastra. And that discipline is used in Jnana Marga also and in Bhakti Marga also. Yama Niyama indirectly operate there. Do you mean to say that Ahimsa is not important in Bhakti Shastra? Shaucha Santosha is not important in Bhakti Shastra? Ishwar Pranidhan is not important in Karma Yoga? They are all intermingled. But we can draw more and more inspiration while studying this in changing ourselves so that we can become more disciplined. Discipline is the crux of everything. So we start observing ourselves. What time do I get up? What do I eat? What do I do? How do I keep my body? Forget about Yoga Shastra benefit. Even your own body, you will be away from all medical illnesses. I am talking purely on the Hatha Yogic aspect also, the physic. There's nothing wrong in it. At least I can start doing that. And when you see Himalayas, at least we will start trekking a smaller hill. But if you see a small hill, then you will not move only. So lofty ideals, study. Why do you think Shad Darshanas are there as a part of Chaturdasha Vidya Sthanam? In the modern era, we are not studying anything. We are studying medicine and engineering. But what was the Vedic science telling us? Everyone was spending their time from the 7th or 8th year, depending upon the Varna, for a continuous period of 12 years. They were studying all Shad Darshanas. Why Shad Darshanas then? How Nyaya is helping? Because it stimulates thinking. It stimulates introspection. It pushes you up in your requirements and then makes you more and more fit. It makes you more and more gambhir or serious about the approach towards Adhyatma. The shallowness is lost. In 1,000 people who are trying to be closer to the God, only one person is taking arduous effort. At Gurudeva's level, there were thousands who were studying at that point of time. It was only he who took it to the logical conclusion. That determination, that inclination, that will comes only when you see the depth. Only when you went to the engineering college, you came to know that, yes, I want to be an engineer because it's a great thing. One who has not seen engineering college, he'll be always more than happy and contented in 4th standard. That is the difference. Hari Om.